Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at how to add shadows to complex shapes. I've been working on this like fancy crab for a while. He's super cute. He's got a little top hat, but he has a lot of pieces and undercuts and legs and fangs, and adding a shadow to that can get kind of complicated without it getting really bulky in places and avoiding thread breaks. So let's take a look. Okay, let's look at our shadow tool. So there's a really easy way in Designshop to add a shadow instantly to anything you're working on. And this option works pretty well on simple shapes like this circle here. So we're going to start with that. To use this, first thing we want to do is select our shape. So we're going to select our complex fill and then go up here to Object, click Object, come down to where it says Shadow. Shadow should be clickable at this point because we've selected an object. If we click Shadow, it'll give us a few options. We can deal with our angle if we want to change that. We can change how much the offset is by how many points. 25 points is 2.5 millimeters, so it's a pretty small shadow. And then the overlap, how much we want this to overlap with our fill shape. I'm going to leave everything alone as is right now and just click OK, and it's going to input another color, which you can see is our shadow. So if we deselect our fill, you can see that it's just overlapping our shadow or our object by about 8 points, which is what we set up, and it's going to give us a pretty good shadow. This tool is really cool in that it will always stay in relation to the object that you've put the shadow on. So if we look at this and we're like, it's close, but actually I wish it were, maybe over here, like a longer shadow to the side, or we want to change the direction of this shadow, it will always work and it will always stay in relation to the existing shadow. So that's really cool. The downside of this object is that there is no underlay. If we take this off and we just look at the stitch out for it, we can see there's no underlay here. So that's annoying. We can add underlay. It is an object. So if we want to go in, we can add our underlay. And that's lovely. If we're getting into really thick shadows, that's necessary. On really thin stuff, maybe not as necessary. We'll go ahead and turn it back off. And we will turn this back on and shrink our shadow back up. So that's a great way to start with our shadow shape. And again, on simple objects, it's not bad. When we start looking at really thin shadows like this, where we're looking at only a couple of millimeters, if we get rid of that purple layer, we can see it gets very tiny here. This is too small. This is the one thing I don't like about the shadow tool, is this is going to give me a thread break or a false bobbin break or something. Like, this is a lot of stitches, really small. And the downside of this shape is it's not really editable. I just undid that. I removed it. You can't really edit this shape. I can't get in here and butch this up or thicken this up. I can add some pull offset. And that's about the best I can do. So I don't tend to use these shapes often as more than a starting point, but it is a great starting point. Once you get into really complex shapes like our fancy crab here, that's where it gets a lot trickier. And this is where I want to note, if you were to go here and highlight, actually, let me just get rid of the circle, get it out of our way. Everything now is on this design. If we were to go over here, highlight the design, and try and input a shadow, it's not going to be clickable, right? And that's because we can only put a shadow under our complex fills that are unique, right? We don't want to put a shadow under the bow tie, for instance, because that's going to be on top of what is already exists, like another fill. So find your fills that are on the outside. For us, that's going to be the top hat brim, the crab body, and these two eyeballs. So if we go through and control select all of these pieces that we want to put a shadow under, and then go to our object, that shadow will exist. So we can auto add our shadow in. We'll leave everything alone, and I'm going to change the color of this so that it's something we can actually see. Okay, so here's what I dislike about our shadow fill on complex items. It's going to have all the same problems that the simple shadow fill had, where there are going to be elements that are just too small to stitch naturally. And we're going to have these runs that happen that are just impossible to do anything with, because we can't really edit our shape. So, like this right here, completely unnecessary. This nonsense, not going to give us anything we couldn't have gotten in a better way. These runs, I hate them. What I do love about this, though, is that it gives us a really easy place to start. So if I want to adjust what my shadow's doing, maybe look at it a little further down here or over here, or I wish that it was just more or a bit more dramatic, I can change that around really nicely. And now I've got a really good outline to start with. So this is how I like to do my shadows. I'll start here. This is really just getting the artwork set up. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to digitize it myself. So using this as my base, I will select a complex fill. I like to come and just pick a color that's not on the screen anywhere. And I will start digitizing this out. So bring this through here. And then I will path as I go. So I'll do that top hat bit, and then I will do a walk normal for the brim. I will come down and do my brim. Start where the walk normal ended, end on my corner, do maybe another little walk normal over to here, and start another piece. And you're going to see I'm going to do some really strong fills. I'm giving myself a nice chunk of over or of underlap, so I'm not going to get too narrow anywhere. And I'm going to keep pathing this as I go. If we turn off all of our crab stitches and only look at, I'm going to move this yellow up, and we only look at our shadow that was auto-generated and our new shadow, we want to look at some things that we can stitch out cleaner, better. This little bit right up here above the yellow that I've done, that is a very, very small piece. That might give us a false bobbin break. And do we actually need it? No, not at all. It's completely covered by the red. We don't even see that. There's a lot going on, like this little piece right here, completely unnecessary. So this is going to be a really nice way to clean it up. Now, I've obviously already done this, so let's go to another window where I've already gone through and done all the complicated digitizing. If we turn off our shape and just look at our shadows, you can see what I've done. We'll go very slowly through it. I digitized, I started in the bottom corner actually. I digitized starting with the legs. I've got a run stitch going to each piece. All of my underlay has, or all of my shadow has underlay, and it's going to go through in a nice little ring. There you have it. That's how I like to do my shadows on complex shapes. Again, the shadow tool, fabulous tool to set up with. Not how I would recommend actually doing your digitizing, because you're going to end up with some really, really thin, hard to stitch pieces that are just not super useful. I hope that helps.